Good morning, guys. Um, Today, I would like us to talk about simple interest. Simple interest is the first unit of term 2, and it's one of the simplest topic in term 2. Now, before we start talking about simple interest, there are some common terms you need to be aware of whenever we are talking about simple interest. This first one is interest rate. What is an interest rate? Interest rate is the proportion of the loan that is charged as interest to be borrowed. So, interest rate, again, let me start, is the proportion of the loan that is charged as interest to the borrower. So, what does it mean? It means when you borrow money, they charge you, and that portion is called interest. So, now what is interest? Interest is the fee that is being charged on top of the money that you have borrowed. In other words, when you borrow money, you pay the money that you borrow plus another money that is being charged on top of that money that you have borrowed. And that part is called interest. Then, if we are talking about simple interest, I want to start by saying that simple interest is visually interpreted as a straight line growth because this interest does not change over the period of the loan. If you, for instance, you borrow a certain amount from a bank and you have been charged an interest rate and is considered simple interest, that if, for instance, at the end of the first year the interest is one rand, it means it will remain 1 rand for the duration of your loan. It will never change. You have to keep this in mind. Now, when we want to talk about simple interest, it's also better for you to know the formula to calculate the simple interest. To calculate simple interest, which we are going to abbreviate it like SI, equal to P, which is the principal, times R times N. We say SI stands for simple interest. P is a principal, which is the original amount that you have borrowed or that you have invested. So it's the money that you have invested first. R is the interest rate and N is the term, the period or the duration of the loan. So what I have to draw your attention on is that this formula is only used to calculate the interest. So if it happened that you have been asked to calculate the total amount of the investment, you have to take this interest and add it on the principal. So your total amount of investment should be the principal plus the total interest earned over the period of the loan. Let me take an example. Let's say, for instance, Mr. Mataba invested 1,000 at 8% simple interest for a duration of 10 years. He has invested 1,000 at 8% simple interest for a duration of 10 years. If they ask you to calculate the interest on this investment, guys, it is so simple. We use our formula, simple interest equal to P times R times N. Remember the simple interest. Simple interest is P times R times N. P equal to 1000 in this case. R is 8%, which is 8 over 100. And N is 10 years. So in this case, we have to take 1000 times 8 over 100 times 10. If you do your calculation properly, you should come out with 800 as interest earned on this investment. This is one way of calculating that interest. You can choose to calculate and break it down for 10 years, which is a little bit longer. For instance, you can decide to calculate the interest rate for a period of 1 year, which will be 1000 times 8 over 100 times 1. Then you are going to get 80 rand. Now, if you look at it, first year you get 80 rand, and the second year you will still get 80 rand. So if you take 80 times 10, you are going to see that it is 800 rand. Now, just take me to explain to you why we say that simple interest is usually look at like it's a straight line growth. You can see we just took 80 rand, we multiply it times 10, because we know it will not change over the period of 10 years. It's 80 plus 80 plus 80 plus 80 up till 10 years, and then we get 800. So that is one example of simple interest. Here, the term given to you was year. But what if, for instance, instead of giving you a period of a year or 2 years, they give you months? Does it mean that we won't be able to calculate? We will still be able to calculate the simple interest. I will take an example again. The same Peter has invested 1000 for 10 years. It's 8% simple interest. Let me repeat. Maybe I have made a mistake. Peter has invested, let's say now let's change it. Peter has invested 25,000 for 30 months at 18% simple interest. Now you can see our principal is there, 25,000. The interest rate 18%, and the duration is 30 months. It's not a year. So what do we do? Now, let me tell you the formula. You can only apply year in that formula. You cannot say, because now the term given to us is 30 months, you cannot say you cannot say 25,000 times 18 over 100 times 30. Wrong. So what we have to do, the first thing to do is to take the 30 months and convert it into years. We know that a year equal to 12 months. So if we have 30 months, it will be 30 over 12, which is 2.5 years. Now that we have converted, we can now do our calculations. It will be 25,000 times 18 over 100 times 2.5. If the calculation is done properly, we are going to get 11,250 for this period of 30 months, which is 2.5 years. So that is how you have to know how to manipulate this formula. They can ask you to calculate in a daily basis. So you have to know how to manipulate this formula to calculate, or you can be asked to calculate in a quarterly basis. So you have to know all these things, guys. Please learn how to manipulate this formula. And again, keep in mind that the formula does not give you the full amount of the investment. It only gives you the interest. So if at the end you have to calculate the total investment, it will be the principal plus what? The interest. Like in this case of 25,000 invested at 18%, in 80% for the period of 2.5 years. We have just noticed that the total interest will be 11,250. So the total investment will be 25,000 plus 11 comma 11,250, which we are going to get what? 36,250 for the full or total amount invested. So that is what you have to keep in mind for simple interest. Thank you.